Well, I'm fortunate to be sitting down again at the New York State High School Football Coaches Association. It's been a while since I've been here, but I really love this clinic. I think they do a great job, have some great coaches, like the one I'm sitting down with here, Mike Toerper, who's the head football coach at Ithaca. So, Coach, thank you for taking the time today.
Thanks for having me, Keith. This is great. I think what they do here at Turning Stone with the high school coaches here in New York is fantastic. And the lineup that they get year after year is star-studded. So just to be a part of this thing, I feel very honored.
Oh, it is a really good clinic. Like, the first time I came out to it, it was like, how come I never knew about this clinic? I knew, I was in Ohio all the time going to the Ohio high school coaches, which actually usually falls the exact same date as this. So
yeah.
Never even heard about it, but I was blown away by the event, quality of speakers in the venue. I think it's such a great job, and I know there's like 700 coaches here this weekend.
I heard
biggest one ever.
Yeah, I heard it's the biggest one ever.
Yeah.
That's incredible. That's great. In this state, the high school coaches are so important to the development of these players, and it's just this state is full of athletes, and they're walking those halls.
Yeah.
And these coaches are doing a great job trying to recruit them, especially out of COVID, where they lost a couple years of development.
Yeah, that's always been tough for everybody. Everybody's still recovering from that, trying to figure out rosters, and I think in a lot of ways it does benefit the small schools, right? I mean, the transfer portal has changed everything, and I'm sure for you this is, maybe even more than the guys at the higher levels, this is your lifeblood to be able to get here and talk to the high school coaches.
Most definitely. And there's so many that graduated from Ithaca that are here. I can't walk 5 steps down the hallway with somebody without a Cortaca Jug sweatshirt on, or just anything related to Ithaca. They got their national championship rings on. It's nice to be here and be around so many alumni as well.
Well, you guys had an outstanding season, a historic season. I want to dig into that a little bit, but for you, where did this journey start? What was it that made you want to become a football coach?
I really didn't know I wanted to be a football coach when I was in college, and I had an awesome head coach in college by a guy by the name of Dave Wants that I played at Pitt, graduated in 2008. I was working the bar at Peter's Pub after I graduated in the spring, and I just didn't know what I wanted to do with my life, and he brought me into his office and said, "Hey, do you ever think about getting into coaching?" I was like, well, I want to keep playing, but obviously that ship has sailed. So let's see what we can do. He's like, I got a guy down the street, Jerry Schmidt, head coach at Duquesne. He's looking for a part-time DB's guy. Would you be interested? I said, how's it work around my bar schedule? He said, it'll work. So we made it work, and I just fell in love with it there, and then got a chance to go work for Jim Margraf down at Johns Hopkins, and that really changed my life.
Yeah, some great places, great influences. When you look at those guys who've been a part of your career, especially coming up as a young coach, what things did you learn from them that were just most useful to you and really have become who you are as a coach today? For
sure. And you look back at my playing career, and I played for an incredible staff there at Pitt. It was probably one of the best staffs ever aligned in college football. We had Dave Wanstead as our head coach, right? We had Paul Rhodes at first as our defensive coordinator. Then Phil Bennett came in, became one of my best mentors. Jeff Hafley was a GA there, who became the DB's coach. Brian Angelico, who's been coaching in the league now for some time, was a GA and a tight ends coach, Ithaca guy. Tony Wives was our O-line coach. We had Greg Gattuso, the head coach at Albany. He was our D-line coach. Charlie Partridge was our D-ends coach and special teams coordinator to start. He's now one of the best D-line coaches in the country. So it was just an incredible coaching staff at the time. I didn't know how good it was, but now looking back on it, I just take a lot of things that they were doing when we were at Pitt and really thinking about it and thinking from, wow, I wish I would have picked that up when I was a player. These guys were really good coaches, but really the guy that made the biggest impact on my career, because of not only my longevity there, but the time of my life when I was in my 20s, that he could really mold me, not just to a great coach, but learning from him every day how to be a great man, a great husband, a great father, was Jim Margraf down at Johns Hopkins. And sadly, he's no longer with us, but he was a man that made, not just me, I can't say it was just me, but so many people's lives he changed for the better, and he was such a great man, and I was just so blessed to be around him for those 7 seasons.
I know when we were talking that for you, really foundational things, 3 things that you said it boils down to. It's attitude, preparation, and teaching. I would love to hear how those really fit who you are and how that works in the program.
Yeah, for sure. I think as a coach, you have to make sure that you can be who they need you to be every single day, regardless of what's going on at home, regardless of, man, I just lost that recruit, or regardless of, my unit played really poorly last week, man, I'm really down in the dumps about it. No, you've got to flip the switch, and you've got to bring a positive attitude every single day. And I think that is really the thing that it starts with, your attitude. And not just your attitude being around the players, but the attitude of being open, and being open to helping these guys on the field and off the field. When they know that you care, then they're going to play really hard for you. And being genuine, being authentic, being positive is so important. And then going into the preparation, I think being prepared to teach is just as important as teaching, right? And having a great plan, a progressive plan in every fundamental and scheme that you teach is so important. So that preparation comes in not only from an X's and O's standpoint, it comes into play in recruiting, it comes into play in every facet of coaching. And then the teaching, right? We're not presenters, we're teachers. It's not about what we know, it's about what they can process and execute on the field. Not everybody's capacity to play is the same. So making sure we're great teachers, and not just because of how many schemes we can draw up on the board, but what we can teach to our guys that they can go out and execute at a high level and do their 111 to the best of their ability.
When you look at that process for you guys, as far as how you're going to teach, starting the classroom walkthroughs, getting it out on the field, what are the things you really like to see as the head coach? You want to see from your assistants and I know everybody has a unique way of doing things, but I guess what you feel are the best things to do in order to be a great teacher?
More than anything else is demanding feedback. And I learned a lot of that working at Holy Cross from Bob Chesney. He always talked about our assistant coaches demanding feedback from our players. So whether that's having two guys sit in the front of the room, one's an overhang on the right, one's an overhang on the left, you pause the film. After 2 seconds, what's your reaction here? Oh, hey, that's good, but you could be doing this better. Next, they go to the back of the room, next two guys up the front. Whatever you got to do, being creative in the meeting rooms rather than letting them just sit there and try and absorb the information. We all know in this world of instant gratification, their attention spans are about 2.5 seconds. So forcing them to give you feedback is the only way you're going to get through to them, and making sure them just shaking your head's not going to do it. They got to verbalize it, or sometimes they got to physically get up and do it. So I think that's something, the feedback part of it is something that's really important to me when we talk about coaching progressions and teachings.
So that attention span, and we're all guilty of this. I would say even myself at 53 years old have started to rely on my micro learning, right? and minute-long clips,
yes.
And 200 whatever it is characters at a time, and that's what we've become. It's hard to keep guys' attentions for this long time. So, what are the things I guess you guys do to make sure that we're constantly engaging these guys beyond the feedback as you're presenting?
Well, it starts with something that Coach Chesney used to say when he would walk around to different meeting rooms. He'd look at you as a position coach and say, less words. These guys can only process so much. We work in 3s and 5s. So fundamentals and techniques got to be in 3 words or 5 words. That's it. You start talking way more advanced than that, it's going over their head. So 3s and 5s, and then really, like I said before, getting them engaged, moving around in the meeting, standing up, moving around, standing up, moving around, making sure that different guys, not just your starters, are answering questions. So really demanding that feedback, but also being concise and clear with your language is very important.
Yeah, definitely. When you look at the language part, right? I think language is so important. It provides the structure of everything you're going to do. And I think a lot of that is thinking about, especially this time of the year, looking back on what you did. There's always that creep of terminology that gets in, and I can remember a lot of this. You realize when you come in new to a job and you start asking people, why is it named this and that, and they're like, geez, I don't even know. We got it from this guy and that guy, and then it just becomes this conglomeration of words that don't fit together. So what kinds of things do you do, I guess, to provide that structure for your terminology that's going to make sense to your players that they can really learn?
I think it takes time. I think it takes time as you as a coach to critically think and drill down what are the most important things that I need to get across to this player in this drill or in this scheme or this fundamental. what are the most important things? Drill down, write it down, start crossing out words, and how can you do it in the most concise manner where it's going to make sense to them? You can physically demonstrate it, use those words over and over and over again when you physically demonstrate that drill or that technique or that scheme, and just continue to hammer it. Because again, it's just repetition in everything that we do, and it's no different with language.
Yeah, definitely. I was listening to a clinic today. I put it on a podcast with Joe Davis, who's at Eastern Illinois now, and that was one of his points of how they explain things. And for him, it even had I think they were rhymed words, right? Like when he says it, repeat it again and again. He wants those few words though to stick in their head and really to mean something too, because you don't want to lose, I think, the why behind this, because you've made everything a contraction, right? Like it still needs to carry a lot of meaning.
There's got to be details. There's got to be specifics. Coaching in positives and specifics are really important too. But so that's the dichotomy, right? You want less words, but you want to be detailed and specific. Finding that balance is really important.
Yeah. Well, today you spoke on special teams, and two things I saw you at the beginning there. One, I can tell you're very passionate about that. And two, the energy. I mean, I see it sitting right here, but you had the energy in that room too. And I think those are two important things to have. Obviously, as a head coach, you've made that decision to be involved in special teams. Some people farm that out to somebody else and stay on one side of the ball. But how's that helped you, especially in your first year as a head coach at Ithaca, help your players find success?
I was so fortunate walking into this job in my first year as a head coach at Ithaca, a place I was familiar with. I was a D coordinator there a few years back. Went to Holy Cross, came back. I was very familiar with the staff. Nobody left. There was no turnover. We hit the ground running. I had a great defensive coordinator, great offensive coordinator, and I told the guys my first day, listen, coaches, you guys have done a great job riding the ship out, righting the ship when the other head coach left. I'm here to plug and play. Wherever I'm needed in this program, I'm coaching the O-line, I'm coaching the receivers, I'm coaching the DBs, I'm coaching the D-line. I'm going to find a way to do it to the best of my ability. And it just happened to be that special teams were units that really, I wouldn't want to say get neglected, but they just didn't have quite the emphasis on them in years past that needed to make a big impact in the game. And for me, it was an easy slide in because, when I was in college, I was a walk-on. I earned a scholarship through my play on special teams, and the guy that was in charge of the special teams my junior and senior year was our head coach, Dave Wanstead, and everyone paid attention because the head coach was involved. So I thought being able to jump in and just kind of getting our team to embrace a special teams culture. If you want to learn about your culture, look at the weight room and look at special teams. If guys are excited for those two things, then you got a chance. I know there's a lot more execution you got to do on both sides of the ball, but you got a chance if guys are into the weight room and they're into special teams. So that's really important, and I think really for us to be able to buy in as a team, it had to come from the head coach. So it was awesome, and I really credit our assistants because I trust them. They did a great job. We all worked in conjunction together. No one cared who got the credit, and it led to a lot of success in the football field.
And you mentioned that you were willing to jump in at every position, so I imagine you've prepared yourself for that in case you were needed to be the D-line guy or the quarterback's coach, whatever it might have been. A lot of guys, young guys, especially your age, seem to have specialized and pigeonholed themselves in one place. What's helped you to learn the game across the board so that you were able or ready to be able to step in any role?
Right. Dave Wanstead gave me a great piece of advice when I was a young coach, and that was gain responsibility. Become valued at wherever you're coaching. Don't worry about the next job. Become valued at the one you're at. And it's going to be hard for that coach to let you go. Right? And I think that was my mindset at Johns Hopkins. I was a receivers coach. I was a DBs coach. I was a special teams coordinator. I was a recruiting coordinator. I did all those roles there when I was there. But also, I enjoy doing the little things too, picking up things after practice, setting up drills, being anywhere that they needed me to be is what I really wanted to make sure that I was doing. So whether that's, I was helping make graphics at Holy Cross, or it was making sure that we're all set for the official visits in some way, shape, or form when I was at Hopkins before I was a recruiting coordinator, and understanding that all matters, and just creating value for yourself by gaining responsibility.
Yeah, I think even when you look at things that seem like the little tasks, for example, like making the graphics. If you're going to do that though, and you're doing it the right way, you start to dig into why are we doing this? What are we trying to accomplish? Like, it helps you, even though that seems like a little task. Now you see the big picture in a different way.
100%, because there's at times where I'm sitting there during COVID and making graphics and working on graphics for these recruits, and I'm wondering, why does this even matter? Why is Coach Chesney has me doing this right now? And then I look at the big picture of it, especially right now as the head coach, and say, oh, that mattered. The little details matter. We don't want to, we have this thing as head coaches and coaches in general, that we have this little bit of paranoia that sets in, and you don't want someone else to be doing something you're not. So every detail matters, every little thing matters, and that's something I really learned from Coach Chesney at Holy Cross, and that's something that sticks with me, and that's what I look for in young coaches.
It's really the way, like, I remember back to when I was a young coach, I wanted to be a coordinator. That was my first goal, and you get to that spot not by doing everything it takes to be a coordinator, but by jumping in with the head coach and saying, I can take on some things here, coach. You can trust me to do some things here. And the responsibility grows out of that, not because you told the head coach, I want to be the coordinator.
No, that's it. And that's the trust that gets built. And for me, the most toxic thing that I've heard in this profession, the most toxic thing is that I've heard people say, be careful at what you get good at. Be careful at what you get good at. That is the worst thing you could tell a young coach. You want to be good at everything. I know that's going to mean some late nights and some early mornings, but gaining that responsibility, gaining that value, you're gaining trust along the way there as well. And that, as we all know, that's one of the most important things that you can have as an assistant coach here in this profession.
So we mentioned it is a historic year for Ithaca, and you also won your rivalry game, which I believe is called the Cortaca Bowl, right?
Cortaca Jug, yeah. We played at the Yankee Stadium this year. It's a lot of fun.
40,000?
40+ thousand. Incredible for our guys, man. It was just so much fun.
Yeah, with, coming into that situation, a lot of times, even if a program's aligned, everything's been good, a new head coach coming in, things don't always go the way you plan that you can bring it this way. For you, what do you feel were a few keys to being able to move this forward the way you guys did?
I think more than anything else, we had a player-driven program, and you say, well, how is that possible with a brand new head coach? Well, the guys that were juniors and seniors were guys that I have deeply rooted relationships with, that I built through the recruiting process when I was here before as a defensive coordinator, coaching them as a defensive coordinator, and some of the offensive guys that I recruited, they trust me, and I trusted them. And I talk about it all the time with these guys. We're going to blaze the trail. You guys got to drive the bus. We're going to blaze the trail. You drive the bus. If there's mutual trust between the both of us, we got a chance. And there was 100% complete buy-in. No matter what we did, we made sure that they were involved in decisions. And when the decisions were too big for them to be involved with and we made them, they trusted those decisions. And I think that was how we had alignment from the first guy on our depth chart to the last guy on our depth chart. And I think that was, nobody really minimized their role either. We had a full team investment, whether you're a scout team guy or a starter. No one cared who got the credit, and we all understood that we had a part to play, and we embraced it.
So I'm sure now the bar's been set.
Yes.
Also, that means there's a target on your back.
Correct.
So how do you continue with this? You can't stay the same, so how do you really push your guys we got to get better. We can't rest on this. We've got more work to do.
Playing the number one team in the country in North Central, we got humbled pretty quickly, and I think that left a little bit of bad taste in our mouth. And I think you're right, we are the hunted right now, but I got to channel my own Kirby Smart and turn us into the hunters and make sure that we're going out there with a different type of edge this year. We're going to find that edge in the offseason. We're going to lean on it during the season, and we're always going to be the hunters at Ithaca. We're never going to be the hunted.
So, Coach, you've mentioned a lot of great things here today, but when you look at all you do as a coach, what would be the one thing you say really gives your players a winning edge?
Their love for each other. And we talk about it from the moment that these freshmen arrive on campus. You can sit in your dorms and hang out, or your apartments off campus and hang out as juniors and seniors by yourselves, or the faster you get those guys feeling like they're a part of this team and take interest in their personal lives, the fastest we're going to be a team, and you know we're going to need one of those guys. You don't know who it's going to be, and the guy that you think it's going to be, it's probably not going to be him. So make sure you get to know these young guys and make them feel like they're a part of this team, because you're going to need one of them to save your senior year. And that was something that Jim Margraf talked about all the time at Johns Hopkins, and something that we talk about a lot now at Ithaca, is becoming a team, and the power of an inclusive team cannot be overstated.
What's the best way for our listeners to connect with you?
Hit me up on Twitter. Follow me on Twitter. Email me. My email's on our website. I think, really, now that I've been a head coach for a year, getting to know young coaches is something I've started to, take pride in, because I think, as we know, especially in this profession in Division III level, where our salaries aren't the best, we're going to have some turnover. So I think that's the best way to connect with me, either on Twitter or via email.
What's your Twitter handle?
At Coach Terp, TERP _.
Awesome. Well, Coach, really appreciate you taking the time here, sitting down with us, talking ball, and best of luck to you in Ithaca in 2023.
Appreciate you, Keith. Thanks for having me on, man.